You'll find yours, I know.
Now look here, my man. It's gonna fall off.
Hey.
There's one Disney movie you can't stream, can't buy, and can barely even mention without starting an argument. Song of the South was meant to charm audiences with tales of Br'er Rabbit and Southern Sunshine, but it vanished into legend, locked in the vault for nearly 80 years. Behind the smiling faces and singing bluebirds lies a story of bold innovation, bitter controversy, and a studio wrestling with its own past. So, fasten your seatbelt for a ride through Hollywood's most mysterious movie, where genius, controversy, and history collided in ways Disney never saw coming. This is 20 shocking facts you didn't know about the Song of the South. After Bambi, Walt Disney wanted to ground his next project in American storytelling rather than European fairy tales. He chose Joel Chandler Harris's Uncle Remus stories, folktales rooted in African-American oral tradition, hoping to create a uniquely American mythology. Disney described the project as our homegrown folklore, blending live action with animation to make fantasy feel tangible. He envisioned Uncle Remus as a kindly storyteller, uniting black and white children through shared imagination. The irony? While Disney thought he was celebrating heritage, he inadvertently opened a cultural fault line. The film's nostalgia for plantation life made audiences question whether Hollywood truly understood its own history. Walt's dream of a universal story instead became his most divisive. If you could adapt one old folktale for modern audiences, which would it be? And how would you avoid history repeating itself? Technically, Song of the South was decades ahead of its time. It was the first Disney feature to integrate live actors with hand-drawn animation and sustained dialogue scenes, predating Mary Poppins by nearly 20 years. Animator Joshua Meador devised a dual exposure process using an optical printer to make Br'er Rabbit bounce realistically through live landscapes. Sets were painted in muted tones, so the colorful animation would pop. Disney even hired cinematographer Greg Toland, famed for Citizen Kane, to perfect the blend of light and ink. Critics couldn't deny the magic. Animated creatures casting shadows beside real people was pure cinematic sorcery in 1946. It's tragic that such artistry was trapped inside such a controversial frame. Would you still watch a movie if its art was groundbreaking but its message uncomfortable? Drop your thoughts below. James Baskett's portrayal of Uncle Remus remains both historic and heartbreaking. His warmth and dignity carried the film, earning him a Special Academy Award, the first given to a black male actor. Yet segregation laws barred him from attending the Atlanta premiere. Even Disney's personal praise couldn't protect him from the humiliation of being excluded from his own success. Baskett's gentle voice and zip-a-dee-doo-dah smile turned Remus into the movie's emotional core. Off-screen, though, the system saw only color. He died 2 years later, never witnessing how deeply audiences would love him. If you think recognition should come without restrictions, hit that like button and comment respect for Baskett below. His legacy proves that talent can outshine prejudice, even when history tries to silence it. Unlike most Disney films, Walt personally oversaw Song of the South from storyboards to final cuts. He met with writers, rewrote dialogue, and even attended early costume fittings. He saw the movie as a heartfelt message about storytelling bridging generations, a child listening to wisdom from an elder. Walt often said, "Every child remembers their first storyteller." But as protests grew louder, Disney grew defensive. Friends said he felt misunderstood. He wanted warmth. Audiences saw whitewashing. After the release, Walt reportedly told his staff that maybe people weren't ready to laugh together yet. Tragically, it became one of the last films he ever discussed in depth. The studio's founder learned the hard way that good intentions can't always rewrite history. Inside Disney's Burbank studio, opinions split sharply. Some artists were thrilled to animate Br'er Rabbit's slapstick energy. Others dreaded the live-action segments. Animator Ken Anderson recalled feeling creative whiplash, half the crew crafting joyous cartoon comedy while the other half staged plantation scenes they found unsettling. To keep morale high, Walt separated teams. One group focused purely on animation, another on live footage. The divide was so deep that they rarely saw each other's work until editing. When the two worlds finally merged, even the animators were stunned by how surreal it looked. Bouncing rabbits inside a story that wasn't fun anymore. That tension between joy and discomfort still defines how audiences see the movie today. Composer Ali Rubel wrote Zip-a-dee-doo-dah in a single night, inspired by the African-American folk tune Shortening Bread.
Them zip-a-dee-doo-dah days.
Zip-a-dee-doo-dah, zip-a-dee-yay. It's the truth. It's actual.
Disney nearly cut it for slowing the pacing, but a preview audience began humming along. The song won the 1948 Academy Award for Best Original Song and became a cultural earworm, its cheerful melody masking deeper unease. The lyrics' carefree optimism, "It's the truth, it's actual, everything is satisfactual," contrasted uncomfortably with the film's setting. Over time, the song outlived the controversy. It became a Disneyland anthem, a commercial jingle, and a piece of Americana divorced from its roots. Even today you can hear zip-a-dee-doo-dah in parades, yet never see the movie it came from, a haunting reminder that art can escape the shadows that birthed it. Before release, the NAACP privately contacted Disney executives after seeing early cuts. Their letter praised the technical achievement, but warned that the impression is one of idyllic master-slave relations. Disney responded defensively, insisting the film was set after the Civil War. But no dialogue confirmed that, and visuals, white landowners, black workers, cotton fields told another story. When the NAACP later issued a public statement, newspapers seized on it, turning the movie into a national debate. Instead of heeding advice, Disney doubled down, promoting the movie as a timeless story for every American. The controversy marked one of the first times civil rights groups directly challenged a Hollywood giant, decades before such activism was common. Had the studio listened, Song of the South might have evolved into something truly progressive instead of becoming its most forbidden relic. Atlanta's 1946 premiere looked festive, Confederate banners, a parade, and costumed performers. But it also exposed America's racial divide. The Fox Theater barred black patrons from the main floor, forcing them into segregated sections. James Baskett wasn't even invited. Walt Disney, caught between Southern tradition and national image, awkwardly smiled through interviews while protesters gathered outside. Reporters wrote glowing reviews while quietly noting who was missing inside. Years later, historian Leonard Maltin would call that premiere a perfect symbol of America's contradictions. Applause on one side, exclusion on the other. What should have been Disney's proudest night became a moral mirror, and the studio never held another premiere in the Deep South again. Archival notes reveal that Song of the South originally ran 20 minutes longer. Deleted scenes included an extended sermon by Uncle Remus and an alternate ending featuring a plantation picnic. When early test audiences reacted uneasily, Disney ordered them cut. The removed footage was later destroyed during a vault cleanup in the 1950s. Fans still speculate about the missing reels. Some believe they portrayed Remus more heroically. Others think they were even more offensive. The mystery fuels collectors' obsession. Film historians have spent decades searching archives and private estates for lost negatives. If those scenes ever surfaced, would Disney dare restore them or bury them again? If you'd want to see the uncut version just once for history's sake, comment "Open the Vault" and hit that like button below. According to biographer Neil Gabler, Walt privately recorded a message in the early 1950s acknowledging Song of the South's backlash. The tape, intended for internal staff, reportedly said, "We missed the mark in spirit, though not in heart." It was never made public, likely because Disney feared reigniting controversy. Only a transcript survives in the studio archive. If genuine, it would mark one of the earliest examples of a major Hollywood figure reflecting on racial representation in media. The fact that it remains hidden shows how cautious Disney became about the topic. For a man who built his empire on optimism, Song of the South became a scar he couldn't erase, but perhaps one he understood more than anyone knew. Despite the turmoil, Disney's animation team delivered stunning work. Brer Rabbit's sequences, directed by Wilfred Jackson, used fluid character animation decades ahead of its time. Animators mixed slapstick timing from Looney Tunes with expressive eyes and elastic motion, making Rabbit both cunning and lovable. Walt called it our liveliest animation since Pinocchio. Ironically, the animated portions are nearly controversy-free. They're vibrant, funny, and timeless. It's the live-action world framing them that aged poorly. Animation historians still study Brer Rabbit's chase scenes as masterclasses in motion and energy, proving brilliance can coexist with blindness. The film's artistry endures, even if its context doesn't. The question is, can we separate craft from content, or should they always be judged together? Few realize that Song of the South almost got 2 remakes. In the 1980s, animator Don Bluth pitched a musical reboot focusing solely on Brer Rabbit's animated adventures. Disney passed, fearing backlash. Then, in the 2000s, a proposal surfaced to adapt it as Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby, removing Uncle Remus entirely. Again, quietly shelved. Executives couldn't find a way to honor the folk tales without reopening old wounds. Ironically, the spirit of those stories lived on in Disney's Splash Mountain ride, 1989, which borrowed the characters but stripped away the plantation context. Now, even Splash Mountain has closed, rethemed to The Princess and the Frog. Disney seems determined to rewrite this chapter, but history, like Brer Rabbit, always finds a way to sneak back. While American critics debated its message, Song of the South performed remarkably well overseas. In Europe and Asia, audiences viewed it simply as a musical fairy tale. In post-war Britain, it ranked among the top box office hits of 1947. Japan's press praised its warmth and wisdom. Why? Context.
昔々のことじゃ。さてある時、わしゃ釣りに出かけた。
Foreign viewers lacked America's racial history and saw only colorful animals and moral lessons. The overseas success convinced Disney to keep re-releasing it internationally even after U.S. protests grew louder. The irony? The film was banned in some US cities, but screened freely in Paris. Global audiences adored the charm that domestic critics condemned, a cultural divide that still fascinates film historians today. Animator Retta Scott, the first woman credited on a Disney feature, openly criticized the film's racial tone during production meetings. She argued that Uncle Remus deserved a story of his own dignity, not as a backdrop for white characters. Her notes were ignored, and she left the studio soon after, frustrated by its resistance to change. Decades later, Disney historians found her memos in archived production files, proof that dissent existed even inside the Magic Kingdom. Her courage went unrecognized at the time, but inspired later generations of animators who fought for representation behind the camera. If you think more creators like her should have been heard, drop a heart in the comments and hit subscribe, because history isn't just about who spoke, it's about who wasn't allowed to. Oscar winner Hattie McDaniel, famous for Gone with the Wind, was offered a supporting role in Song of the South. After reading the script, she declined, saying it smelled too sweet for something sour. Her refusal stunned Disney executives. Casting a star of her stature could have legitimized the project. McDaniel's quiet stand became one of Hollywood's earliest examples of a black performer rejecting stereotype roles, even at personal cost. Ironically, her decision made the film weaker. Her charisma might have balanced its tone. Still, history views her choice as heroic. She recognized what many in power didn't. She reminded Hollywood that not every opportunity deserves acceptance, and that sometimes walking away speaks louder than applause. Beyond its controversy, Song of the South was a milestone in color cinematography. Disney's team used 3-strip Technicolor, saturating the Georgia countryside with vibrant blues and golds. Cinematographer Greg Toland blended sunlight and back projection to create a painterly glow around the actors, matching the animation's tones. Critics at the time praised the visuals as dreamlike. The technique influenced later Disney live-action films like Pollyanna and Old Yeller. Ironically, that same golden lighting softened the harshness of its subject matter, visually romanticizing the setting. What looked magical also made history look cleaner than it was, a reminder that beauty in cinema can both reveal and conceal truth. Near the end of his life, Walt reportedly told friends he wished he'd handled Song of the South differently. He never specified whether he meant tone or timing, only that some stories need new storytellers. Internally, the studio stopped mentioning the movie by the 1960s. Walt had once called Uncle Remus our American Aesop, but by the Civil Rights era, even he seemed to know the tale had aged poorly. His regret wasn't bitterness, it was awareness. The world had changed, and the storyteller who taught generations about dreams realized even dreams can misstep. That self-awareness became part of Disney's legacy, learning when to let a story rest. The idea of locking classic movies away in the vault began here. After the 1956 re-release drew protests, executives decided to keep Song of the South out of circulation indefinitely. They realized scarcity made people curious and profitable. The same tactic later boosted sales of Cinderella and Snow White home releases. But for Song of the South, the vault became permanent. Every few decades, petitions appear demanding its release. Disney refuses every time, citing outdated cultural depictions. Ironically, the film that created the vault system remains forever locked inside it, a strange legacy for a company built on nostalgia. In 1989, Disney reimagined the film's animated segments into Splash Mountain, replacing controversy with fun. Burr Rabbit's hijinks, catchy tunes, and a 5-story plunge turned forgotten folklore into theme park gold. Generations rode without realizing the source material's baggage. But as cultural conversations evolved, Disney faced pressure again. In 2020, the company announced the ride's retheme to The Princess and the Frog. Fans were split. Some saw it as erasing history, others as progress. If you ever rode Splash Mountain, hit that like button and comment your favorite memory. It's strange, one of Disney's happiest rides was born from its most troubled film, proving that joy and reckoning often share the same roots. Disney Plus has repeatedly confirmed Song of the South will never be released in any form. The reason isn't technical, it's moral and legal. The company fears global backlash, copyright challenges from Harris's estate, and the impossibility of re-editing its racial imagery without altering history. Executives have discussed educational releases, but even framing it properly risks misinterpretation. Meanwhile, bootleg copies circulate online, feeding its mythic status as the banned Disney movie. In a sense, Song of the South is no longer a film, it's a lesson. It reminds Hollywood that innovation can coexist with ignorance, and that good intentions aren't enough to make art timeless. Conclusion. And there you have it, 20 shocking truths about Song of the South, the film that dazzled, divided, and disappeared. It pioneered animation techniques still studied today, gave James Baskett his rightful place in Oscar history, and forced Disney to confront questions it wasn't ready to answer. Decades later, it still sparks the same uneasy conversation. Can a movie be beautiful and wrong at the same time? Whether buried forever or someday revisited with context, Song of the South endures as Hollywood's cautionary tale, a reminder that storytelling power must walk hand in hand with responsibility. Which fact surprised you most, the innovation, the backlash, or Walt's hidden regrets? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button if you learned something new, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories Disney tried to forget.